So this the text, I'm actually doing it as a part of another study group. It is called Upadesa Sara, means the teachings. Sara means the, what should I say, the summary. So it's a summary of teachings. It is truly a summary of teachings. And this was a commentary from one of the saints from South India. His name is Ramana Maharshi. Maharshi means is a title given to a saint. Maharshi is like an enlightened one, right? He, at the age of 14 or even younger, he walks into a cave, meditates for years, and then he comes out. He doesn't have much philosophy or much teachings actually. He just said, find out who you are. Is the question is always, who am I? And then if you tell him, I'm suffering, and then he'll say, find out who is suffering. He won't empathize or sympathize with you. He'll just say, find out who is suffering. If you tell him, I'm very angry, then he'll say, find out who is angry. So if you say, if I'm sick, he'll say, find out who is sick. It's like that. So he is a very caliber saint, and a lot of students who followed him, interestingly, without any teaching or philosophy. And then a lot of Westerners actually reached out to him, and they became very ardent disciples. So his teachings, he sort of wrote a commentary on the book, which is supposedly from Lord Shiva. It's some verses from Lord Shiva, very ancient verses. He made a commentary on them, and that is the commentary known as Upadesa Sara. Very interesting points he mentioned about meditation, about mind, about how progressively, we improvise. So he started with, the japa is like taking the name of the Lord. Sing in the glory of the Lord. He put that as the lowest way of worshipping the Lord. And then he talked about mentally thinking about the Lord, or take some of his teachings and keep repeating them, or any, deep philosophical teachings. And then he put them at the from the bottom to the next level, second bottom level. And then he comes up with the concept of meditation. And meditation is at the third level. And within meditation, he kind of describes two types of meditations. One meditation is thinking that he and I are different. The Lord and I are two, different. And then I am meditating on the Lord. And where is the Lord? Somewhere up in the heaven. That's one kind of meditation. And then the other kind of meditation is where the Lord resides within me, and I am meditating the Lord within. So he and I are not separated. We are one and the same, two sides of a coin. So he describes it as the best type of meditation, and he puts it on the top. And interestingly, when I read that, first time I kind of discovered the distinction, right? That is what we do it in heartfulness. How do we meditate? We meditate with the idea, the concept that the divine is within. We are not separated. It is always within. It has been within all the time. And it is just that we become so extrovert. This voice from within have become very feeble, almost unheard. Because it unheard, we are searching somewhere else, right? But it is always have been within. It is never hiding from you. It is never hidden. It is always trying to be expressive. But we are not paying attention and we are shouting, Lord, Lord, somewhere else. so, so now with the meditation, the right form of meditation, with the proper meditation, now we are going within. Now we are seeking the right guidance, right information, right help from within. Because all our prayers were heard from within only. So when the prayers are heard from within, the nature aligns with us. It somehow tries to fulfill that ask, that prayer. So the prayer, how should we pray? I was doing this Maxim 2 presentation some time back, last month I think, in Longwood. I said even the prayer is of two types. One is I am somewhere low, the beggar, and praying to the Lord. But the second level of prayer is where I go to the space of the Lord. I go to that level. That means, what is that level I know so far? So far I know is the deepest condition I have experienced in my meditation. Bring that condition first and then pray. So when I bring that condition, I'm in a state where I'm neither the victim nor the sufferer nor anything. And then I have the ability to submit it to the Lord in such a way that it doesn't become an ask. It becomes a submission. When such a submission is given, the nature fulfills it. So we have to go to that state to pray, not from a lower suffering, a victimized state. Okay. So it is important to understand these concepts, textbooks are there, books have given a lot of information, but I cannot become a repetitor. I have to understand, I have to dig deep, and I have to really understand the Sara. That's what the Saram is, the real essence. I have to bring the real essence. In fact, I gave a wrong definition to the Sara. It is not the summary. It is actually Sara means essence. We have to bring that essence. And when we bring that essence, it fulfills. Yesterday I did a small write-up. It's like the doctor is writing the prescription after prescription and I'm filing them nicely. But I never follow that prescription. Then I can say, you know what? I have all the prescriptions. What use of it? It is, right? If I don't follow the prescription, what is the use of collecting all the prescriptions? Somehow we became like that. We become the collectors of the knowledge, information. But we never know how to bring it into our life. We are proud of that information. And even people go to the extent of saying information is God. But what use of that God if I don't know how to bring it into my life? Correct? So this is what we are trying to get to. And then, we have to understand this always somehow we ended into misinterpretation of it, and we are proud of our misinterpretation and we keep repeating them. And because we repeat them, it becomes a truth for us. Then we are nothing to seek. So that's why especially in spirituality, in the information world, keep one door open. Not everything labeled is true. Interestingly, there is a research performed on the avocado, high brand avocado oils sold in US. The most top brands are all chemicals. so, and we discover things very late. So same thing in spirituality, we are holding on to information, but we are never validating that information. How do we validate is only by following, by implementing. That's why heartfulness is not a system of philosophy, not a system of knowledge. It is a system of practice. Right from the beginning, we are implementing it. I always quoted this example. My dad never liked it though. My dad is an agriculturist. He's an agriculture scientist, supposedly. He has done his master's. And he goes to these farmers to help them. And often farmers teach him the right thing. Because they are on the field. From their childhood, they have been doing it. They know much better about the plants. My father never put any seed in the ground. In his life, he never planted anything. But he's an agriculturist. So towards the end, he realized he knows nothing. But he gave up. So we are also becoming like that. We have all the information in the world at tips of our fingers, but it's of no use. Okay. So then comes the mind, and today I did a small write-up on the mind. I'll share it with in the WhatsApp group. Mind is our only tool available. And the most misunderstood thing is again mind. What is mind? Mind is not just the intellect. Mind is not just the thoughts. In fact, in this book I'm referring to, he said mind is unreal. And typically who has subscribed to this philosophy of everything is unreal, the whole existence is unreal, they have not understood how this unreal should be processed. If it is unreal, what is the use of talking about it? Right? So what is this mind is projecting based on the past. And how is it projecting? So the mind is influenced by the consciousness, the self-identity. I'll stop using the word ego. I'm removing that word ego from my vocabulary. So I call it self-identity. The self-identity, consciousness, and the wisdom. These are the three things influencing our mind. But whereas the mind is just an interpreter. It is an interpreter of the awareness of that consciousness. So mind is where it interprets for us the language of consciousness, the language of God. It interprets for us. So without that mind, the interpretation is lost. So there's the information or the higher wisdom which is coming from above, it's lost in translation because we don't have the interpreter in between. So mind is an interpreter. And then we say, oh, my mind is thinking all the time. The moment you say, my mind is thinking all the time, I infer that you are not liking what you are thinking. If you are liking what you are thinking, would you ever complain about it? Right? But why is that mind which is giving all these thoughts, what we call thoughts, but they're not actually thoughts, they're the projections of the mind. It is always projecting something negative in our lives. Because it is always based on past. If my past have something wrong happenings, I'm always projecting it in. Or my fears I'm projecting. Right? So this is all because of the impressions in the state of consciousness is making those projections. And these projections of the future are unreal. They did not happen. We don't know if they are going to happen. It is only a projection without any proper basis, without any facts. That's why that is unreal. So the unreal mind, what the book is referring to is not the mind itself is unreal. Its projections are unreal. Right? So then what is the solution? The solution is already Heartfulness has given. Do the cleaning. Remove these impressions so that its projections are reduced. Right? As our consciousness is expanding, the self-identity, the influence of the self-identity is becoming sublime. As the self-identity is become sublime, my wisdom quotient is going up. So now wisdom with an expanded consciousness, I'll have better clarity to deal with life. It doesn't mean things are not going wrong, or it doesn't mean things always go right. Nothing of that sort. But I have the wisdom and an expanded consciousness with clarity to deal with it. And to deal with it, my only tool is mind. So mind is a tool in the instrument, is an instrument in the hands of consciousness, self-identity, and wisdom. If the self-identity or ego is taking over, God help that mind. If consciousness, expanded consciousness, minus impressions, plus the wisdom, if it is taking over, then it becomes a very useful tool. So mind is not to be blamed because it's a tool. You cannot blame the tool. Correct? So, thoughts is a result of impressions, and the formation of thoughts will change as the wisdom and expansion takes over. So then, the thoughts are there to plan our activities, plan our goal, accomplish something we need to plan, and that is thinking. So worrying is not thinking, mental projections are not thinking. Thinking are only those thoughts with an objective behind it. You can call it as thinking. Otherwise, it is not thinking. So I'll stop here for any comments or questions. Otherwise, we can get into meditation. All right, everyone is quiet. So let's